If you ask a man why he wants children, he'll tell you that he wants children to continue his legacy. But what legacy? Listen, lineage is not to be confused with legacy. Lineage is when you just continue your line to birth kids. Legacy is when you actually have something in the family, be it money, property to pass on to your children. Money, property, titles, connections, things that can put your children at an advantage in your demise. That is a legacy. Most men do not have legacies. Only a few men are rich enough to leave legacies for their children. What you want is to continue your lineage, but your lineage is so stupid and abusive. Why would I want to continue that? Huh? You rat. That's how I know men do not know what they're saying when they talk about lineage, continuing legacy. You don't have a legacy. You are broke. Your father was absent. And even if you want to do anything for your future children, it requires money, which you don't have. So what freaking legacy? Please spare me. I think that this whole legacy thing is just another way for men to just get women pregnant because you do not have a legacy. You don't have money, connections, property, titles, nothing to pass down to your children. But you know what you've got? You've got abuse, you've got a bad temper, you've got a horrible looking face, a big stomach, big ears. Basically, you've got warped genetics to pass on to your children. Legacy though? No, you don't have. My advice, even though you're not going to take it, just do not have children because you want to continue your lineage. You have to give your children something. You can't just bring children to this world and expect that they should be happy that they're your kids. You're not that important. And that's what I want you to understand. Men, you are not that special. Your being somebody's father is not a privilege. Go somewhere else. Go sit down. You owe your children more than I want to continue my lineage. I want to continue my lineage. Rat.
Oh, you were finished? Oh, well, allow me to retort.
All right. All right. I want to just say right off the rip, uh, I don't take anything I hear an African woman saying this shit in a negative, okay? If they're saying they're spouting any kind of negative bullshit, I don't take it serious. I feel the same way about their males over there, okay? I'll explain why and shit. But before I do that, this post here, this is her name's not included in this is public knowledge. The name of her deal is Faithful Femininity. All right, Faithful Femininity. This is an African woman, and as usual, we see them spouting off negative, negativity basically on the social media. They do that and they do these skits and they do this buck dancing. One of those guys. I remember back in the day, there was a guy doing a weird dance with chicken and shit. This guy would go around eating pieces of chicken and buck dancing and doing these coon dances and a bunch of other shit. I could just go on and on and on and shit. Okay, I even was partially okay with a guy, and then he made a 3-hour video about how foundational Black Americans ain't shit. The usual crap about how we're slaves and blah blah blah. And then I confronted him on his live stream, and he went real silent and shit. I made a couple of videos, but he didn't want to take that up. I was willing to do something I rarely do and go back and forth with him and shit because I had been seeing him for a minute. He had been coming to comment on my videos and shit. But I guess because he saw me on there going in on black women that are misandrous. My platform is about decentering misandry in our community, okay? Decentering misandry and shit. The reason I say that is because women are the first teacher of the child, and in our community, it's a matriarchal one, and they don't want to admit that shit when it's in the negative, but when it's beneficial, they want to talk about all this bullshit, and they want to claim all your successes and all your achievements, and what's left for the man and shit. Okay, this is not victimization. This is not just because somebody hurt my feelings and shit. I ain't gonna lie about that. But when I see these African women on here, running their mouth saying all this crazy shit, I know they don't say that to their own men because I have been personally inside rooms where women were doing this kind of shit, and the dude got up and slapped their lips off and shit, and made them walk out with their head bowed, and slam the door. And it didn't matter if they whatever religion they were in and shit. That's just their natural reaction to hearing some bullshit they didn't feel like hearing. And you don't see them on there. They be on there talking. They don't hear mostly talking about American black men, foundational black men and shit. They over here doing the COINTELPRO shit. Okay, now when I be just out and open with it and shit, it's social engineering bullshit. It's just self-sustaining and shit. The hatred and negativity. I want to kill that. I want to kill misandry and shit. I don't say shit about no fucking feminism. I don't care about feminism across the board. I don't give a shit because in our community, uh, rampant black female misandry is disguised as that. It's wearing a mask and like a Ku Klux Klan hood and shit. I just was irritated this fucking shit. And this woman that is in. Do you see pictured here? She has an entire thread on social media that is labeled misandry, and it's not taken down from being hate speech and shit. But I have routinely have blocks of videos taken out of my catalog and shit across all of my on my social media. The ones currently I've been kidnapped. Uh, Online I've been kidnapped. My IG has been kidnapped, and my Facebook has been kidnapped and shit by black women. Not shit you not. Okay? Not even tripping on that. I just want to let you know if you saw me on some other platforms, there's some black female still in my identity and shit. Okay? And getting back to this woman here, this faithful femininity and shit. When I look at her, the first thing I see is her big ass lips, her big ass DSL premium lips and shit. And then I don't hear shit else and whatnot. I just hear a bunch of gibberish and shit. Okay, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to women or nothing, especially black women and shit across the diaspora shit. If you're a misandrist, then you in front of me and shit. I gotta run through your fucking ass like wet toilet paper and shit. I'm gonna keep running through your bitch ass until I hit the mountain. Okay? She talking shit. Okay? So the reason that I'm making this video right now is about that one particular TikTok video she posted where it says, "I want to continue my legacy," and she said this is a poor man's reasoning or something. And she went on to this little, minute or so diatribe. And it really doesn't matter and shit because she's an African woman and shit. And I want to say, look at your fucking continent, where you live, where you come from and shit. How developed is that? From, just me as a descendant of American slaves and shit, kidnapped people and shit. And some of us were indigenous and they stole our land and murdered all the people and shit. But, like, how is that any of your fucking concern and shit, okay? What would you know about legacy? Your people don't even fight for what's theirs while they're in their own fucking land. They let a small percentage of outsiders and shit come in and dominate all the wealth and give you scraps to live on. You eating bricks. You eating, sea biscuits and shit over there. You living in mud and dirt. You don't have any real infrastructure. That's how China was able to come in and establish whole communities and with Chinese signs and everything and say no blacks allowed and interbreed with your women because they have a shortage of women over there. And the ones that are still over there, they don't fuck with them like that shit. They're transactional. They're feminists, I guess you would say. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of rampant misandry, but I have to be realistic about it. I'm a straight black man. I'm in my 50s and shit. And if I was anything else, I was ever going to be able to affect anything in the community as far as decentering misandry, black female rampant hatred and misandry and shit. I could start my own community in my own backyard and shit. So I can't take an African person serious and shit. My experience with African people growing up through the 70s, 80s until this time and shit, when I'm old enough to be a grandpa and shit, they have been divisive. They have been operatives, ops, whatever the fuck, agents of chaos and shit, okay? Even their progeny and shit. They just have this gene that they have to betray and fuck everything up. They don't care about any legacy that we have. They want to co-opt it and pervert it and shit. They don't have any kind of morals or scruples and shit. It don't matter what accomplishments they have because you lick boots for pennies on the dollar and shit. You don't invest in yourself. African people, why's your country fucked up? Why don't you have a standing army or a common language across all those tribes and shit? Why don't you have nuclear weapons? Okay? Why don't you have any kind of united front? Why is your country fucked up where other cultures can come in there? European cultures and shit, Chinese cultures and shit, anybody else that want to come in there and shit. As long as they're not in a foundational black American, you down for your crown and shit to eat groceries out of the white supremacy's ass. And you got the nerve to sit up here and talk about, something as inconsequential as relationship issues. Okay? With them big ass lips. Okay, there's some big ass motherfucking lips and shit. Right? I know that this African woman wouldn't dare to sit in front of me and say any of this bullshit to my face. Okay, a lot of people would not dare to sit in front of me and say any of this bullshit to my face. They gotta do some little slick shit or they gotta group up like Voltron and shit to fuck with me because They have no they have no ethics and shit. They have no soul. Okay? They don't have any true strength. That's why the country is the way it is and shit. And it's being ran into the ground. They just sitting there watching everything, everything that they inherit, the land and the dirt, be perverted and corrupt and shit like themselves. They're busy bleaching their faces, hoping for a Mizungo bread, bottom shelf bread to wife them up so they can engage in, you know, deviant, malfeasant sexual acts and shit for validation and approval and shit. And then they want to get on here and take pot shots because you hate yourself. Okay? And I'm not saying that as some kind of emotional jab. It's how I truly feel. Because I've been looking at African people, and people from outside the community, the foundational black community, Americans that were born in a fucking America generations over and shit. Now, I myself have a personal hundreds of years of history here, this goddamn country. If you people want to come over here, you want to, try. I don't really feel like you guys are knocking us, to the side or anything. The minority majority overall is showing all melanated people how they feel and shit. And I just don't give a fuck. I'm a misogynist anarchist and shit. And I'm that for a reason and shit. Because I have lived and endured and I'm a product of, this female-led community and shit. Okay? It's a long process, man, when you grow up in that system and shit to find out get any semblance of autonomy and shit on any level, mostly spiritual, honestly. Who the fuck do you think you're talking to? You wouldn't understand anything about, legacy, okay? Because you people sold your legacy for wooden nickels and pennies on a dollar and shit, like burnt copper pennies, and you don't have shit over there, okay? I don't care what you got in your cities or anything. You don't see yourself as a part of a whole, a melanated whole and shit. What can we do with you? How can we do anything with you? How can we take you seriously? I know that you guys aren't living in huts and all that bullshit. I'll leave that up to misandrous black women in America who are habitually egregious on all fronts to all peoples. They get no blowback and shit, but we gotta hear this bullshit. We have enough angry, fucked up, mentally disturbed black women over here. We don't need Africans to pile on and shit, but we know that you will. And I want to tell you that I don't take you serious and shit outside of them big ass lips you got. Okay? There's some big ass motherfucking lips. Alright? I make no apologies about that. Everything else behind it is hot air and gas and shit and fucking weed. Okay? I'm getting tired. Why don't you go make one of those, shuck and jive dance videos and shit to Twilight or One Hit Wonder and shit, okay? Get off the shit. Get off the shit. I ain't gonna tell you to stop hating. You keep hating because we need to hear you guys what you really think so we know not to fuck with y'all. Okay? I got kids, man. I got one anyway, and the other one I don't fuck with. He over there. He over there looking for something and shit. Probably hiding from the U.S. Marshals. That's cool. It's cool, man. I just, I never said it before and shit, but, my own mother was a passport woman and she went overseas and, she never came back from over there and shit. She just brought what she could find of the culture over here and shit. And part of it destroyed my entire bloodline. I lament that. But, we got to push forward and shit. I can't live for yesterday. I got to live for tomorrow. I got one son that I have to think about and I have to raise. I love him very much. And I would never accept a woman like you being in his life and shit. And I would run you out of that bitch. Okay? I'm all about defunding black misandry and shit, not protecting black women in a black mindset. This is all you have to offer shit. To come on here and make a bunch of shitty ass videos that don't amount to nothing. It's garbage. You're garbage and shit. Your rhetoric is garbage and baseless and whatnot. And you can't do anything of any substance. Like, what are you doing about your own situation in your own fucking country? Why don't you go fix that shit instead of coming over here looking for scraps off the white man's table? Don't answer that. It's a rhetorical question. We both know the answer. Shit, you are nothing but an empty vessel full of hatred. Okay, asshole. Oh yeah. Fuck you.
The Black Patriarchy. A non-existent group of fictional black male power brokers not discredited, erroneously jailed or outright killed by the minority majority who look the other way as they work tirelessly to shame, oppress, and outright take out the altruistic black female populace of the honorable democratic United States of America. 3K's inset bitches. These evil wealthy members of the black patriarchy are the sole reason for all the ills of the black community, walking, talking, holding down jobs, and doing everything up to and including giving their very lives in service to their baby mamas and baby's motherfucking kids. Their motto that strikes fear into the hearts of black women everywhere: bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks.